Welcome back, guys. We're going to jump right into the couple of things that I have left to talk about on the live show today. So, a couple things that I've noticed right now across the NBA, NFL, and MLB, if you really consider it, is the coaches being fired left and right. Now, there are two vastly different examples I'm going to give you right here. One, Earl Watson, the other, Dave Fizdale, as you probably already guessed. So, with Earl Watson, he had suffered multiple 40-point losses within a 3-game stretch and was let go after only 3 games. I get it. That's a big issue, and there must be stuff behind the scenes that we don't know about, and now Earl Watson's on FS1 doing his thing as a reporter, but clearly his style didn't match what the team was looking for, and they didn't even give him a chance to leave his mark, even though he was in the organization for a while and kind of brought up as a grassroots guy. But clearly it wasn't clicking. On the other end of the spectrum, you have Dave Fizdale. Now this is what pisses me off. Dave Fizdale is a great coach, well-liked, well-respected around the league, was a Heat assistant for years, and is let go by the Memphis Grizzlies after going 7-12 this year, and last year going 43-39, which isn't bad considering the Memphis Grizzlies last year were already on a decline with a team of older guys, including Zach Randolph, Mike Conley, who isn't old, who is still very good. We stand here, he's fired after 7-12, and everyone around the league is voicing their opinions and concerns, wondering what the heck happened. This comes right after Gasol is benched in the fourth quarter after the team is rolling during a win a couple nights ago, and the next day we find out Fizdale's fired. Everyone's kind of reporting that it was a beef between him and Gasol that really set the tone, because the rest of the team bought in, and we can see that by how they played, considering that last year they were 43-39 on a team that really probably shouldn't have been that way, and this year they were younger, but they're on the come up. It was only going to get better because these guys are getting younger, but Fizdale is now the fall guy. If it's really based on the relationship of Marc Gasol, this tells you that there is a big problem with the Memphis Grizzlies organization, and I'm going to call it out right here. Memphis's loyalty has truly lied with the players. We get that. We've seen that with how Tony Allen has now since left and with the New Orleans Pelicans, but they say they're going to retire his number. On top of that, they're going to retire Zach Randolph's number, who has been there for years. And trust me, I love player loyalty, especially with teams. We've seen that with Red Auerbach and the Celtics, but look at what that got them. And kind of similarly in this case, look at what's going on with the Grizzlies. Now, we look at what Danny Ainge said about Red Auerbach doing when he was on the decline, and so was Larry Bird, where Red could have traded Bird and Ainge to Indiana for Antonio Davis and another player. I forget who it was off the bat, but that would have made the team a lot better, and it would have made a smooth transition into the 90s as opposed to the 20 years that we stuck and we're in the pooper. Now, look at the Grizzlies. They just sided with a player being Marc Gasol. You're siding with a guy who is 33 years old, your all-star center, and your centerpiece. I get that. But he's aging. In an NBA where you progressively need younger guys and lengthier guys to stretch the floor, Gasol's game isn't really privy to what's going on in the NBA now, albeit that he's still a great scorer and a great talent, and I would want him on my team any day. It shouldn't be that you side with the player. You can trade Gasol, especially because his name has been mentioned in the trade rumors for the last umpteen years anyway. Fizdale shouldn't have been the fall guy, and Memphis screwed up. I'm not a fan of this, and if that's the case, there are other coaches who should be on the hot seat instead of Fizdale, which is the case. Look at the Clippers. They're in the pooper. They lost Blake Griffin, and now they should go in the total rebuild route, and as you heard in the Fade segment, they should trade DeAndre Jordan to start that rebuild. And if they do trade DeAndre, like G said, I wouldn't be surprised if Doc Rivers goes too. And at this point, I wouldn't be surprised if Doc Rivers is not there at the end of the season anyway. Another coach, Alvin Gentry, he should be on the hot seat instead. The guy is a great coach. We've seen him do great things with teams, but he clearly isn't the guy for the New Orleans Pelicans. The other two things I want to talk about today and get to before we end today's show is Derrick Rose. It breaks my heart to see and to understand that we will never get to see the Derrick Rose that could have been. This could have been the guy that was the Russell Westbrook before Westbrook was even getting started. Rose now has missed a total of 257 games since 2008, his rookie year, due to so many injuries, and the list goes on. I believe there was like 20-something injuries that he's had. And the injuries take a mental toll on a guy. People don't understand. People think of these players as commodities, and almost like NFL players are just fantasy players. They're just digits and numbers. These are people with real emotions. Derrick Rose clearly is affected by this. He hasn't looked or played the same since he was in Chicago. You could see it when he was with New York, and you could see it this year. He doesn't have that chip on his shoulder, that I was an MVP on his shoulder, that I'm coming back and no matter what, I still have the talent. 70% of Derrick Rose is still better than almost all the backups in the league and can still give you 15 points per game, which he did with New York. Albeit you might not have him for the entire season, but he's on a team where you don't need him as much to be who and what we know him to be. He can be a role player and kind of fit into what he wants to do and how he wants to do it. It doesn't look like that he's going to come back, and although, you know, we get conflicting reports about whether or not he will or won't, I hope he doesn't, from the standpoint that he should focus on his family. He should focus on his time with his family. I mean, he said in the media that he wants to spend more time with his family, and these injuries really take a big toll on him. It's tough to see, and it's sad to see, but the only dilemma left now, from what I know and from what the rest of the public knows, is this Adidas contract. Whether or not this is true or not, we don't know, but it's speculated that the contract that he has with Adidas would be forfeited if he does retire from the NBA, leaving hundreds of millions of dollars on the table, which is a lot of bread to just say no to and walk away from. So it's a catch-22. Do you get injured? Do you risk the injuries and make that money? Or do you walk away from it all on top, knowing that you did the right thing for your body, leaving behind what you could have had in your wallet? In my personal opinion, I'd walk away. Derrick Rose is a big enough name and a member in the media where he could get immediately jobs anywhere he wanted, doing whatever he wanted, and could definitely give back into the community, especially because when you see a guy come up from your neighborhood, there's nothing like being able to speak to him and understand who he is and where he came from. So I'm wishing my best to Derrick Rose. And the last big topic I want to get to is my speculation. We got 54 seconds on the clock to get this done, so look at me right in the eyes, ladies and gentlemen. Pay attention to the Cleveland Cavaliers and the Oklahoma City Thunder. OKC is 8-12 right now, and it's clearly not working. We saw how Westbrook took last night's loss to the Orlando Magic.
15 rebounds. Meanwhile, Russell Westbrook put up 37 of his own, but not enough. Clearly frustrated after this loss tonight.
The guy went and scored 20 points in the fourth quarter, and that wasn't enough. We see how Paul George and Carmelo Anthony are fitting in, albeit we're only 20 games into the season, but it's clearly not clicking like we thought. The Big Three era that we thought was going to be in OKC may or may not happen. And now what we might notice is the Cavaliers will contact the Oklahoma City Thunder and offer that Nets pick and potentially another player for Paul George. Mark my words, at some point we will hear more rumors and more speculation whether or not Oklahoma City will trade Paul George to the Cleveland Cavaliers in exchange for that Brooklyn pick. And if that's the case, I say that Cleveland definitely will give Boston a run for the money, but I still won't pick them ahead of them. But trust me when I say it's being discussed, they're keeping an eye on a situation, and it's potentially going to happen. All right, ladies and gentlemen, I'd like to thank you for tuning in today. Thank you for listening to me rant and checking out the Fade segment. If you want to hear more, check out my Facebook, Alexander Himes, or Instagram, Himes World, for more sports updates. Have a great day, ladies and gentlemen, and we'll see you next week.